Once upon a time, there lived a 16-year-old girl named Eve. She was a bright and beautiful young woman, with a heart of gold and a passion for adventure. She had a strong sense of justice and a desire to help those in need. Eve had been raised in a small town in the countryside, and had grown up with a close group of friends. One of her closest friends was Rachel, an 18-year-old girl who was always there for her. Rachel was a kind and gentle soul, and the two of them had been inseparable since childhood. The other person in Eve's life was Jason, an 18-year-old boy who had recently moved to town. He was a bit of a loner, but he had a kind heart and a strong sense of justice. He and Eve quickly became friends, and soon enough, they were inseparable. Eve and Rachel had been best friends for years, but as they grew older, their relationship began to change. Rachel had started to develop feelings for Jason, and Eve could see it. She was jealous of the attention that Rachel was giving him, and she was determined to do something about it. One day, Eve decided to take matters into her own hands. She concocted a plan to get rid of Rachel and win Jason for herself. She began to spread rumors about Rachel, and soon enough, the whole town was talking about her. Rachel was devastated, and she began to withdraw from her friends. Eve was pleased with the results of her plan, and she began to pursue Jason more aggressively. She was determined to make him hers, and she was willing to do whatever it took. She began to manipulate him, using her charm and beauty to get what she wanted. Jason was confused by Eve's sudden change in behavior, but he was also drawn to her. He found himself falling for her, despite his better judgment. He wanted to be with her, but he was also scared of what she was capable of. One night, Eve and Jason were out together, and they got into a heated argument. In a fit of rage, Eve pushed Jason away from her, and he fell down a flight of stairs. He was badly injured, and it was clear that Eve had gone too far. Rachel, who had been watching from a distance, was horrified. She rushed to Jason's side and helped him to safety. She was determined to make sure that Eve paid for what she had done. Rachel and Jason decided to take Eve to court, and they were able to prove that she had acted with malicious intent. Eve was found guilty and sentenced to a long prison sentence. Rachel and Jason were relieved that justice had been served, but they were also saddened by what had happened to Eve. Despite her actions, they still cared for her deeply, and they hoped that one day she would be able to turn her life around. Years passed, and Eve was eventually released from prison. She had changed during her time there, and she was determined to make amends for her past mistakes. She apologized to Rachel and Jason, and they were able to forgive her. Eve eventually found a job and a place to live, and she was able to start a new life. She was still drawn to adventure, but she was determined to use her skills for good. She became a vigilante, using her skills to help those in need and fight for justice. Rachel and Jason were proud of Eve for turning her life around, and they were happy to have her back in their lives. They were also grateful for the justice she had brought to their town. Eve had gone from villain to hero, and she was finally able to find peace and happiness. She had learned a valuable lesson, and she was determined to use her newfound power for good. The end.